Testing. A very warm welcome to you here in the audience and those tuning in online to Football West's first ever Hyundai Building Stronger Clubs workshop. This will be part of a very exciting series through 2022. Firstly, here at Floreat Athena Football Club, we're on Wajak Nunga Buja. For over 70,000 years, the traditional custodians have been looking after this land, the waters, the country around us where we play our football, so we extend our deepest gratitudes. This is a very exciting panel and an exciting week as well, because it's Female Football Week, which Football West and Football Australia celebrate, and on Tuesday, the 8th of March, we have International Women's Day. So what better way to kick off this series than to have a star-studded panel, who I'll introduce very shortly, but I'll also give a bit of context around why we're doing this Building Stronger Clubs workshop series, partnered with Hyundai. And it's really because the football community, it's about working together and sharing strategies, ideas, having a platform to highlight the great things that clubs do. So this is right down that alley. And from a global perspective of football, if we look at FIFA and the first ever Men's World Cup, it was in 1930. The first ever Women's World Cup was in 1991. So it took us 61 years to get to that level of having a competition at the highest level for women's football. And even countries that are bigger than Australia are only having their first ever women's national team games just a couple of weeks ago. So at a global level, there's so much work to be done. We know that here in Australia, the Matildas are rocking. They're doing fantastic work and achieving great things on the field. Sam Kerr from Western Australia is flying the flag. The W League, or the A-League W as it's now called. There's massive strides that have been made, but still a lot of work to be done, which we'll discuss. And that's why we're going to get into the panel, and I'll first of all introduce who's joining us. Firstly, to my right, we have Becky Petrovsky-Glenn, who is from Victoria Park Soccer Club, the men's first team coach, and comes to us from the USA, where she's had 37 years experience as a player, a coach, referee, massive experience in the game. So Becky, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Soni Sinde from South Perth United Football Club is the president, and also a standing committee member of the Amateurs, Masters and Metros for Football West. Thanks Soni for joining us. Sarah Cornwall from Australind Junior Soccer Club, all the way in the southwest. They're a powerhouse club, over 400 players, 145 female players, and also host of the largest in WA Girls Carnival, the Australind Junior Girls Soccer Carnival, which is a huge event that I know you're looking to get registrations for. You just opened that up, so great to have you with us as well from the southwest. And finally, Michaela Lyons, a NPL player with Fremantle City, a club who is the largest female participation club in WA with over 330 players from 2021 statistics. Michaela is also a head of sports science at the club and also the Game Changers program rep. So we look forward to finding out more about the pathways you've set up at the club and your role there too. So maybe we'll get to hear from the panelists in their own words now. And Becky, if you start us off, we'll go down the line. How did you get hooked into football?
I started playing when I was 7 in the U.S. and just went from there. And as I progressed through high school and university, just continued, and then got my reffing license and started coaching, and away I went and started coaching middle school and high school boys and girls in the U.S. That's years 6, 7, 8, and then high school ages. And then once I came out here, moved to Australia and kept playing, kept reffing, and was offered coaching position at Vic Park when I could no longer really play for the women due to injury. And here I am. This is my 7th year coaching the men at Vic Park, and we have a title for Div 1 Metro League, 2 runners-up and a runners-up in the Metro Cup. So I've just been hooked since I was 7.
Congratulations on that title last year as well. That was brilliant. Sony?
Well, I'm a mum of 2 boys, as anyone would do, hunting for a good sport that they could play for life. And I'm glad they chose football as the sport to be. And as any parent would want to get involved in the community to support the club that the boys play for. That was the start 5 years ago. Since then, I do have a passion to help the community and help it grow. And I found a lot of niche areas where I could contribute, as that's my professional background. And that was much easier for me to give my time while the boys were training. So it worked quite well, and and hence led to the presidency eventually. And I am enjoying it. Thank you.
South Perth are a club with 82 female players and really aims for equality, so you really see that at the club with your leadership. Sarah?
I come to this as a parent and a person who likes to organise. I didn't grow up with soccer. I have come to this because my husband is the coach and has been coaching our 2 daughters who are now 16 and 12. He coached both of them from age 5. So I have done everything on the sidelines, seeing the need to organise. I'm currently on our committee for the Australian Soccer Club. I have been secretary. I am also the manager of our girls team that my husband coaches, and have been for the last 10 years, always picking up behind him. But also I came to last year become the coordinator of the Australian Girls Soccer Carnival when Steph Garner, who created the carnival in 2017, due to her circumstances moving to Perth, could no longer coordinate the event. I took over because no one else was going to do it, and it was going to not happen if somebody didn't step up. So I did, and it was a fantastic experience taking that on last year. At times, very stressful with the conditions last year, but I had a great committee of dedicated people as well working with me to bring that event together. And as Abid said, we've already started planning for this year's event. Registrations will open tomorrow. There is information out there, but it's looking like a great event happening this year, and it's certainly, the event has built in terms of numbers from when it first started in 2017 to last year, when we had over 470 girls participate in the day, which was just amazing. So that's me.
I started a little bit later than probably most of the people I play with. So I used to play tennis and then was playing indoor soccer when I was in probably year 7. And someone from what was East Fremantle, Tricolore, which we've now amalgamated to Freo City. So I've done a bit of a backflip. Went down there, played outdoor for a couple of years as a junior, and then went through the NTC pathway for about 3 or 4 years as well, and then came through NPL and came back to East Freo, and now we've joined with obviously Freo United to be Freo City. So come back through, and yeah, just involved now. Obviously, it's a huge passion of mine, but involved in coaching and obviously the sports science side of it. My research at the moment is all to do with women's soccer as well. So very much involved at the moment. Yeah.
We'll keep the mic with you, Michaela. Just also for the audience, there's going to be an opportunity for questions towards the end. So if you have any, we'll provide that chance. Now that we know this star-studded panel and the different roles that you have across admin, coaching, playing, being president at a club, let's start by looking at club environments. And with you, Michaela, being at Fremantle City, the club with the highest participation, really established pathways, what's it like to be a player there, and what actually enables Fremantle City to be so successful in that side of the game?
Yeah, well, I think obviously can't speak to the Freo United side, but even the way that I was kind of approached to go to East Freo Tricolore as a 12, 13-year-old. I feel like it was more so actually gaining participants was just being proactive. So people out there in the community actually going around to indoor facilities and five-a-sides and things like that, and approaching and just seeing if you'd be interested in coming down to trial or whatever it was back then. In terms of the environment now, I think a big thing is obviously enjoyment. What I've found as well is we have this thing with female players, in my opinion, that we think that we can't be competitive up to a certain age. So I think for some, competitiveness is very enjoyable, for me as well. And I think we get to that point where it needs to be enjoyable at the youth level, but at the same time, you need that opportunity for players to then go into more of a competitive level. So having two options, either I'm doing this for more of a social thing, and I mean, it still is social, but also you need some sort of competitive environment there, because I think that drives enjoyment as well in a lot of players that kind of want to go to that next level. From a Freo perspective, I think they've done that very well. We have a really good community down there. We'll speak to the Game Changers program in a bit, but there's quite a good mentorship program going on where we feel really connected to other teams. It's not just the people in your team. And having those opportunities to connect with the younger ones, maybe go down to a few sessions, coach them, go and watch them play, they come and watch you play. I think that really drives that community feeling and that enjoyment, which obviously undoubtedly kind of leads to that higher rates of retention and participation at the club.
What is the structure of Fremantle City off the field in your women's department? I understand there's a technical director, there's a few roles that are really key in driving those programs too?
Yep, so we've got, Gary was our technical director, so he's now our NPL W coach. We've also got some programs on the side, like a five-a-side. We have a girls' development program, so which I've been involved with as well. We have a physical literacy program, so that's about like fundamental movement skills for our younger players. So yeah, like sideline programs, and again, I think that really feeds through to the participation and retention as well, having those. And the biggest thing as well is getting people involved with that, so getting our NPL players involved, even some of our Metro girls, amateur girls, getting involved with that as well. So you almost get, it's like they're working, but they're getting something from it as well, and you learn so much from coaching and from being involved in that process.
Speaking of coaching, Becky, you've coached for so many years. What's rewarding about it, and what was it like to actually start to coach men's as well? How did you make that step?
Well, the most rewarding for me has always been those aha moments where I know that even started when I started coaching middle school and the younger and the kids in high school, where you get boys and girls that have never played before, you're teaching them, and all of a sudden, you know, you're watching them be afraid of the ball, won't head the ball, they don't want to go into 50-50 challenges, and then all of a sudden, they're on the pitch, and they're up for a header, they're winning headers, and you're like, they got it. They just got it. And you still see that with men and women at the community sport level, because you have so many that have just either come back to the game after maybe playing a little bit in high school or in school. They remembered they kind of liked it. Let's see if I can play again. Okay, we can go from there. I've had even some men that have come and been like, yeah, I've never played before, but I like to run. Okay, so here's a soccer ball. It's round, not like the AFL or the rugby league balls, and I'll teach you how to kick it. And then you see them get it, or you see them start to understand formations and the logistics of play and just the little technicalities, and that's what gets me excited, because even as adults, they can still have those aha moments, and it's like, yeah, that's the most rewarding for me, because you're not at a community level, you know. It's very important, yeah, to have the pathways to move up, to challenge, to be very competitive, to possibly go Matildas and Socceroos. But there are some of us that we're never going to get there. And it's good to have those options, that we have community clubs, social clubs, that you can still participate. You can still challenge yourself, and that's what I get excited about.
Becky, an interesting fact is the Matildas have never had an Australian female coach. So you coming through the coaching pathway, what were the barriers you might have faced, and were there any challenges as well?
Well, in this, even in the U.S., like there are pathways for coaches. I've been involved coaching, I don't hold license. I've not followed those pathways. I didn't even really have them offered to me in the U.S. because of, I guess the generation you come up, you're not going to really coach. We're not that interested in soccer in the U.S. So you didn't have at that time period, in the 80s, 90s, it was still growing, but not. So that's a challenge there for people my age and for my generation. But I guess it's getting over those generational and age barriers sometimes. But, if you want it bad enough, you just push through.
Thanks, Becky. To the Australian Girls Carnival, which last year had 470 players, and it's open to a lot of clubs. So you've got clubs from across the metropolitan area coming along, an increasing amount. But tell us about how, for a regional club, you started this and were able to really get this to where it is now. I think 5 years ago it started too, didn't it?
It was, as I said before, the Carnival was the brainchild of Steph Garner, who is and was very passionate about girls playing soccer. So she had this idea that she wanted to create the Carnival. At the time, in our own competition, she had her own daughter playing in, and she had an all-girls team, and they were playing in the mixed competition. So they were playing the age down, as girls were able to do. So, Steph just decided that she was going to create this carnival, and she did, and it was awesome. So I myself and my daughters have attended the carnival since 2017. At that time, we were out at Harvey. We weren't involved in Australind, so we were living half an hour away. So we attended in those early years as teams, and it was fantastic for the girls coming from this little country town to come and play against girls from Metro, because at that time we did have the Northern Redbacks playing. Baldivis came along, Fremantle City came along, and so did Carama. We also had some teams from the southwest as well. Dunsborough have attended, Michaela, etc., and I think a team in the early years from LNJSA. So it built from there. It grew year upon year as the word got out, but at that time it was still the word was getting out by word of mouth. So we had a break in 2020 with COVID. Nothing was happening. So last year when I did take over as the coordinator, one of our biggest goals was to increase the participation in the carnival, because what the carnival is all about is girls playing soccer and having fun and coming together to enjoy the fact that they as girls are playing soccer together. And my catch cry for it is we're celebrating girls playing soccer. So we were fortunate last year. We met with BID, and that's when it took off with the support of Football West. So last year we had so many new metro clubs come to the carnival. ECU Joondalup and Joondalup City. We had Baldivis Districts, and I apologise if I'm forgetting various clubs. Perth Saints, Baldivis Districts, Carama came again, Fremantle City came again. But so many more clubs and teams came last year. So in 2019, we had 320 participants. Last year, it built to 470. So that was a massive increase on our numbers. But that's because the word had got out that it is such a fun day. But as Michaela said as well, there's also the competitive element to it as well. So it brings the competitiveness and the fun. So girls, whatever their desire from soccer is, they get it at the Carnival and they have an awesome day out. So that's how it's grown.
Apart from the Carnival as well, your club, in terms of equality, is close to 50%, 50-50 participation in terms of registered players. So that environment as well is more than just the Carnival. What would you speak to that, and how do you achieve that too?
It is getting up there towards 50%, and I keep looking at our registrations coming in because I like to see the girls' numbers staying up there. A lot of it, because we are a community club, it is word of mouth. So we get into the schools. We've got some of our coaches and some of our committee members in our schools encouraging the kids, but especially the girls, to come and play. And we also encourage our girls who are playing already to bring a friend. Tell your friends. Get them to come along to training. But the important thing there as well is once we've got them there, we need to be inclusive and make it a fun and safe environment as well, especially for the younger ones coming through. So we want them to feel that they're having a good time. And for girls as well, the girls need to have fun. It is a social experience for them, not just a competitive experience. So they need to have fun. They need to feel safe that they can actually come out of their comfort zone, give things a try, and that it will be okay if they make a little mistake, and they're encouraged along the way. So that's, I think, very important for our retention, and that's why we see girls coming back year on year, because they've been in that supportive environment.
You can't understate the importance of your players as active advocates.
Absolutely.
And the word of mouth, because they're peers. It's such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Sony, when we talk about retention of females in football, really important bit is club cultures and environments. And when you are in a leadership position, like you are at South Perth United, how have you advocated for that and just made sure that that's at the forefront?
First of all, for any clubs to be successful with men or women, the culture is the base that builds up on. We were very fortunate to have a long-standing coach who took on the ladies' team last season. So last year was the first time in South Perth's history that we had 3 ladies' team. With that, the campaigning went across various platforms, from very strong, motivated, driven captains. They have been with us probably 3-4 years, but the belonging they had, they wanted to share the vibe with their peers, like having food on the canteen after a game on a Thursday is a social aspect that some people look forward to. And on Sunday, going for lunch or a beer after somewhere else, not just the club, but somewhere else on the social side, is something that they come for as well. So it's more become as a support network group that they want to be part of, and they look forward to come on a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Sunday. And some people even play short of players. They even go from one game to another game to another. So they are that committed to bringing the team up the curve. But the biggest support I had was from the coach himself. So he had a couple of them on the assistant coach level, so he could manage all 3 teams. So we are well prepared for 2 teams this season, and we were just informed that there's another 6 players coming. So we would probably make 3 teams as well this season. And also what we can give back to them from the club's point of view is, some good training. Football West has been great. Some of Football West officials have been coming down time to time to check on how we're going, including yourself. and the coaches touching upon the training modules. We have a technical director who oversees that as well. He hops down on one of the Thursday, just overlooks the structure, if any feedback. Sometimes you keep doing the same thing for a long time, but as an outsider, they can add something that you would have forgotten over time. And yeah, we've secured the biggest sponsor this year for the girls team, Parkland Mazda. So one of the girls was pushing for it to get them on board. Likewise, we had the same vibe for every other teams as well. So they feel equally as important, and that is important for me and for the club, that everyone should feel valued and important. Doesn't matter if it is juniors or seniors or ladies or masters even, everyone will be treated equally, and enough importance will be given to them as much as I can or the club can. I had enough hands to help me with that, so it wasn't one person's thing. But I'm very proud of everyone on the committee and on the field who have made this possible.
Just as you mentioned the committee, you also have good representation on the committee as well, which is important. So if you can speak to that.
Yeah, it takes me back to 4 years ago when I got onto the committee as, I just went in to help, like I said, on improving the digital online presence of the club itself, because that was not visible. When you say South Perth United, we'll be like, what? So I wanted to change that as the first immediate goal. So as I went in there was a need for a secretary to be in the committee. So the president requested if I could, and I said yes. And I learned a lot with that. So I was probably one amongst 6 people on the committee at that time. And then I aggressively got into securing sponsors, because we needed money to facelift the ambience of it, provide good equipment, good kits, and just general promotion for the players even. So I was doing that for about 2 years. And with that, what I also understood is, what is that we can give back to the volunteers who expect nothing from us is recognition. So I started pushing for individually recognizing every person who has made a contribution, big or small, doesn't matter. And that led to increase the portfolio of the sponsors, increase the portfolio of the volunteers coming on board for the committee. So last year we had about 12 on the committee. This year I've broken it down in a structure that is manageable for me. So I have identified what are they good at, who's good at what. Some people live and breathe South Perth United all day long. What are they passionate about? Is it events? Is it social? Is it sponsor? What are they good at? So once I identify that key person, I give them a team under them. So they manage their little team of 2-3 people, and then I oversee only the main person. So that way I have a main committee, let's say about 8, and then there's about 12 of them under. So that is enough people to cater and function every section of the club well. But if everyone is sitting in hours and hours for a committee meeting, no one is interested. So I want to keep it very short. We pre-plan our meetings. The agenda comes way before. Something that I've learned from Football West, being on the committee, the structure and how it functions. I've learned a lot from it. So I take it with me, and I put it back to the club. So they have to think and prepare before they come. So they're not wasting their time. It's only 40 minutes or 30 minutes even sometimes, and rest of it gets discussed within the team. So people don't see it as a huge burden to sit through committee meetings for 2 hours every fortnight. They think it's manageable because it's in bite-size responsibility. Let's say canteen, you need like 4 people. So one does the drinks, one does the food, one does the till, one does the admin. Fine. Whereas over the years, there would be one person doing it all, and next year they never want to do it. So I don't want that. I want all 4 to come back next year.
Thanks for shedding a light on the strategy of the club. Becky, Sony also discussed equality of opportunity, equality of access, and Vic Park Soccer Club is very much going down that path and doing great things off the field, what's it like to be associated with that club, and can you speak to that philosophy that Vic Park Soccer Club have?
Well, Vic Park basically was founded to make a place for a women's team. The men's team the first year was kind of a side thought, I guess. So it's always been female forward, I guess, if you want to say that. But once we added the men's program, it didn't seem to change anything. It was always, we're here as soccer players, as football players, not necessarily, we're not trying to be us and them, men and women. It's a football club. So that's always been my feeling, and that, I guess, is why it wasn't a big jump for me, for someone when they said, oh, you're going to coach the men. I was like, well, okay, it's just like high school boys, but they've got a mortgage now. So it wasn't a big jump. It was just, I'm just coaching a football team. And it's really, the club is about commitment, passion, and integrity. It doesn't say whether you have to be a man or a woman. You're there as an athlete, a community member that's passionate about football. So you are included. It's that feel that, you know, you're not a man or a woman, you're a football player. That's why you're at this club. That's what you're about. You are about being part of a community group and playing football.
Thank you. Something we also mentioned just before this was the importance of investment in programs. I know you're passionate about that.
Yeah, well, coming from the U.S., you can see what happens when you don't fund programs. You just have to look at the men's national team in the U.S., that you don't hear anything about it. It's basically in shambles. It's not, I don't believe it's even in the top 10 of, country teams, national teams. So that's something that I know myself, coming through the U.S. and growing up with my passion being soccer, the women's and the girls' teams always got more investment in the U.S. because there wasn't American Gridiron, there wasn't basketball, there wasn't, as a girl you could play soccer or you could run cross country, basically, and as fall, as autumn sports. So they put more money into the women's soccer programs because that was the option for girls. And boys' programs tended to get secondhand, overlooked. Oh, here's your budget, you get 3 new balls. Oh, the nets are fine, just duct tape them together. No, if you don't put money into a program and you don't fund a program, it's not going to go anywhere. It'll just rot, basically. And that's something, Australia, I think, is trying. It's pushing. It's doing better, I think, than the U.S. did when I grew up, because you see opportunities like at Fremantle City where they have pathway programs, where you have pathways even for coaches, for young players, for older players. You have opportunities. Just we need to make sure we're not dropping the ball here.
Well, let's zoom in on that program, Game Changers, because I understand it came in 2021, a really new initiative, and now it's getting government attention as well. So let's walk through that one, Michaela.
Yep. So that was Chris Morano. She started it, and we've got, in the last meeting, I think there was about 14 of us that were representing the program. So we've actually changed the name. It's Gaining Ground now, just to differentiate from another couple of programs. So we're on social media and things like that. So Gaining Ground, FCFC on Instagram. I think they've got a Facebook and website as well. Essentially, it started just as an idea, and I think it really took off. And it was around, it's a wellbeing program around trying to empower women and girls to take on roles in all facets of football. So to empower them to want to coach, want to referee, want to play. And there was kind of 3 parts to it initially, and we're kind of trying to build on that. The first one was a mentorship type program, as I spoke to before. So that's really what we were trying to do, is get our NPL players and senior players to go down to some of the junior players, training sessions, and be involved in a coaching environment without that added pressure of actually having to coach. So for some of the girls, especially in my team that had never coached before, it could be quite daunting to kind of take on a coaching role without that exposure previously. So we would have 2 or 3 sessions where we'd go down to an under 14s or an under 16s Div 2 team and really just spend time with them, help them do a warm up, just chat with them, hang out with them essentially, rather than actually coaching. From that, we actually had 3 women sign up for coaching this year, which is awesome. So that was a kind of a great success from that. We also had some events throughout the year where women and girls from all teams were invited to attend, and that was really about building that community feeling and getting involved with the junior girls and also with the amateur girls and things like that. So we had all different speakers come in, and we probably had about 20 or 30 people attend those, which was really awesome. And then also just we've been involved with the government as well. So we were through Lisa O'Malley, went to Parliament, and we were talking about how we can kind of bring in a wellbeing program and obviously extend it past just Fremantle City, which is where it is now. So it was more of a pilot program to start with. But yeah, it's really about trying to expose, I guess, to other roles and encourage and build confidence for our young girls to step into those roles. And it comes from both ways as well. It's opening up those pathways and opening up those roles so that we can step into them, but also providing something where we have that confidence and competence, which maybe historically hasn't been there previously. So that's kind of what it was about. For this year, I know it's growing, so obviously trying to build participation rates, retention, want more girls in coaching roles, extend that mentorship program. We've actually seen some of the younger girls, so under 12s, under 14s, really confide in some of the older girls about structures and coaching things, and I think that's something that's maybe missing in a lot of clubs, is that we don't actually ask the players what they want, and we don't listen and act on it, which is a big thing, which I think Game Changers really provided that kind of platform to do that for those younger girls.
With the retention you mentioned, there's been some research around injuries in football and ACLs, for instance, and with your sport science background, it'd be interesting to know what you do as a club around those wraparound supports, because injuries do happen and setbacks, but it's coming back from that and how to keep players in the game as well.
Have you got 3 hours or? No, I'm kidding. For me, look, there's many external contributing factors, especially when we go down the ACL type pathway. I think the biggest thing is, again, mentioning historically, soccer has been a masculine sport. And what's happened is we've got girls and women participating now, which is incredible, and we are increasing those participation rates. But we haven't had the same process up until where we are. So there's been a lack of strength training, which is a huge one, a lack of opportunity to even be involved. I know when I was in high school, I was wearing a skirt and tights to school. So lunchtimes, recess, you're not out there playing soccer with, it's all the boys out there in their shorts and the girls are sitting down and eating lunch. So there's many contributing factors to that. I think a big thing that we need to do is, I guess, make it demographic specific in terms of our strategies around injury prevention. And one of those things is just trying to increase and improve on those factors. And we discuss it. I think everyone in this room acknowledges it. We know about it now. But I think we're at that point that we have to act. There's no perfect time to act on something like this. And while you're waiting for that perfect time, girls are dropping out, girls are getting injured, etc. So really acting on it. There's a FIFA 11 plus program, which is everywhere now. That's like an ACL prevention program. So introducing that into warm-ups. Again, talking to your athletes, not modelling everything we do off the male pathway. We reach maturity at a very different stage to boys, and we go through different physiological, psychological changes at different times. So just talking to the players, understanding them, and building from here rather than trying to implement everything that we've had in the male pathway would be the biggest thing for me. Yep.
Sarah, if we take it back to, there are clubs who currently don't have female programs at all and are looking for a starting point. What would be your advice to those clubs? Where to start and what should they be looking to do?
I think it's almost just give it a go, bite the bullet. Girls do drop out if... I have seen a lot of instances of girls dropping out of the game because they're playing in mixed teams. And it is great that we now have the competitions available, the female-only competitions. And it is great to see Football West, or in the Metro, bringing in under-8s this year to start it even earlier. I have seen with my own two girls what it was like for them, especially my younger girl, playing in a boy-dominated team when she was 8 and 9. She didn't have the ball passed to her. She was kind of just, milling around on the field. And then when we moved to Australind and she joined an all-girls team, the change was immense in her. And now, for a girl who was going to drop out of the game at 9 years of age, is now just enjoying the game so much because she's playing with girls, she's having fun, she's having that social interaction, which I do come back to. It's also important for the coaches of girls to understand that coaching girls is really different. It's challenging. I saw something on Facebook, I think it was last year, for a coach introducing, and I think this was tongue-in-cheek, but using handstands as warm-ups. And it's like, well, they're doing it anyway. Let's incorporate it in the training. I'll come back to my own personal experience as well, because I have been team manager watching all this happen. My husband has coached, he has 2 adult sons as well, so he has experienced coaching boys and girls. It is very, very different. So to keep the girls in the game, they need that enjoyment and that fun, that safe environment, which sometimes they don't get when they're playing in a mixed comp. So it is really important for clubs just to bite the bullet, set up the girls-only teams, and it has been fantastic for me watching on Facebook all these metro clubs making their girls' teams this year. It's so exciting to see, clubs like I've watched Mandurah City and watching them call for players, but so many clubs calling for girls players. That's how we're going to keep girls in the game, is having the female-only competitions where it's safe, fun and competitive, because yes, the girls are competitive, especially when they get to the older ages. They want to win, even when they're playing in the mini-roos age groups. We don't keep score, but the kids know the score, so they are still super competitive at that age. But so important for the girls to have that opportunity to play with each other, have the ball passed to them, not be standing on the edges of the field, just, being a passenger. They need to be involved in the game. And it is just beautiful to watch these girls out there having so much fun together. And once again, that's the joy I get from the Carnival, is just seeing these girls competing, having fun, being inclusive, and, just bringing it all together.
Becky, I see you nodding in approval there. You have some thoughts?
Yes, definitely. Coaching girls and boys, completely different. Yes, we're all football players. Yes, technically, on paper, we all need and want the same things. But psychologically and tactically, oh my God, no. Absolutely not. They're different species. You need to approach things differently. And it's the girls that gave me the gray hair in high school. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's completely different. I mean, the way I approach coaching the men, if I would do that exact same thing, and for the women, even at Vic Park where we're all one club, no, the guys will handle it one way and the girls will handle it completely different. And you have to know that and understand that as a coach, because that's the only way you're going to help your team of individuals progress.
Sony, if we take it off the field and equality in terms of how many female club presidents do we have, you know, and you're one who's really leading the line along with many others who we work closely with. But what's your advice to female administrators in the game and taking those leadership roles?
Well, traditionally it's been a male-driven role for decades, I believe. When the position came available and there was a need that someone had to take it up to sustain the growth that we have achieved so far, I did have some setbacks and some thoughts about I'm not as experienced in the football itself, but all I looked at was the administration of organizing and setting the process right. Now that I can do, and I had help. So being in the committee and observing what everyone was doing also gave me an insight to every area. I think as leaders, what they need to do is, like I said before, identify who is good at what and embrace it as much as we can, and always keep an eye out for people who have that passion and drive to do it no matter what. So there are people who would come on a Sunday, 8 p.m. to lock up one canteen shutter. You know, we need people like that. And as leaders, we need to keep an eye out for those key people who will drive the rest to do something similar. Having an equal committee in terms of gender, we have almost a 50-50 in terms of men and women, whereas in juniors, more so women. Obviously, they're mums and they have the time and they can fit in. And traditionally, women have been doing a lot of, child looking after the child, and the priorities are slightly different to male. But now everything is changing. So with that, I think it is a good opportunity for women to take on roles like these, to give it a different spin. It's always good to have some fresh thoughts, and coming from a non-football background can also be an advantage, which I just realized. So, that's my take on it.
Before we get into the questions, Michaela, as a player, I think sometimes we need to really appreciate the sacrifices you make playing at a high level MPLW, but also balancing with your studies and work. So can you shed a light on just how you manage to juggle those footballs?
No sleep? No. I think it is enjoyment, really. We are moving more into that professional realm now, and with quite a lot of the NPL players getting paid to play, so it's more like work. From an individual perspective, I just always try and see it as a hobby, and it's quite easy when you are enjoying it. Again, it would be dependent on your club and your team and things like that, but for me it's one of those environments where I can go down to training and I enjoy every aspect of it, whether that's, before training, having a chat with my peers, or actually actually training. Even talking to the coach after, I enjoy every part of it, which makes it easy because I don't see it as an external contributing factor or an external stressor, which again is probably quite individual. But I think it is really important that it is adding a lot of time into your week, and you have to make sacrifices. Maybe you miss a birthday, or you're spending time with family and friends, an important time for yourself that you might not get, so you do have to make those sacrifices. It is more energy every week. So creating that environment where it's really enjoyable and it's actually a supportive environment where you're de-stressing, essentially, I think that's probably the key to keeping a balance with playing football and being involved with it in other facets. Yeah.
We will now move to questions. And if we can please ask anyone who has a question to just say your name and club and also who you'd like to answer, or you might like all of the panelists to answer it. But welcome to fire away. If not, yeah, it means we covered everything. Fantastic. What we'll do maybe is we'll go down the line. Becky, if you want to just highlight what's one thing we can do as clubs or the football community to maximise participation of females.
That would one thing. Just allow them to participate and participate at their desired level. You don't have to push. They don't have to push as hard as their neighbor, the men, the masters. Just let them play. Let us be women and play as we want, because men have been allowed to play as they want for so long. It's time for us to be able to play and to participate as we want.
I believe support is very important for girls, and I totally agree with what Sarah was saying about the mixed team, and having a dedicated girls team would be our dream to achieve. But so far we have been having mixed teams, and the girls have been coming back. I think the biggest thing that worked for them was the support. And the safe environment they feel when they come, so they would trust the club and the volunteers and the coaches and the surroundings, that they are confident to come back every year. So support is my that one thing.
Definitely, as Becky said, letting the girls play as girls, letting the females play as females in our and their own way. What we do need to work on is bridging that gap, and Michaela has touched on this as well, is that gap between the top of the juniors and moving into seniors. So it is really important to have those senior girls come down and support the junior girls as well. And I think that's something that we can do better. Where we find that we struggle with our competition is in our 17s age group. We need to, at that time for the girls, they want to be participating as seniors at that time, because they are moving into adulthood. But we need those girls, our 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, to be acting as leaders for the younger girls. So we need them in the competition, and we as facilitators, as the club reps, the club organisers, we need to encourage our girls to stay in the game when they're in their mid-teens, to stay, to participate, to bring the other girls along behind them, but then move into their journey as adult players as well. I hope that kind of answers the question as well.
Cool. I would say participation, exposure, so social media and things like that, actually getting the exposure out there, especially for new clubs. Retention-wise, as I said before, not modelling off what we've done previously, really taking action, and, tomorrow, you know what I mean? Like, going right now, go and take action and talk to your players, listen to them, act on what they want and what keeps them around. Why do they want to come back next year? What do they enjoy about it? Do they enjoy being competitive, or do they enjoy the social aspect more? What parts of training do they enjoy? Do they enjoy training twice a week or once a week? Really understanding what they want and what's going to bring them back to the club, and then acting on that and revisiting it. And I think that's, especially for your leaders in the club, something that's really, really important that I think is lacking at the moment, is we think we know what they want, but we haven't actually gone and asked them. and we don't revisit it enough. So yearly, revisit it, act on it, revisit it, act on it. And I think that that's probably the key to building those higher retention rates at clubs.
Thank you for sharing those. We have a question.
Totally agree with all the comments up there regarding participation, but we need to invest a lot more in women in the coaching and science field. I think the coaching at the moment that is being offered is very expensive, whereas if we invest more money in and make it more affordable, involve some of the top players, they can help influence players and coaches what makes them strive to be the best, and that influences coaches to try their best to bring someone from an average player up to be one of the best players. But I think it needs to be a lot more affordable, because I know there's a lot of people out there that want to coach, but it is quite expensive and time consuming as well. So I think that investment would be well worth it to encourage more women into the sport.
We'll take that as a very valid comment as well. Thank you.
Yeah, g'day. My name's Andy. I'm from Margaret River, football Margaret River, and coach girls development down there, and with Lewin. And just touching on with what Sarah said, and just want to acknowledge the Carnival and how good that's been over the years. And I actually coached that Lewin team that came to the first Carnival, and I think it offered a really good, for the girls, a bit of an eye-opener when they're playing the Perth teams, because like two of the girls that were in that Carnival now play for the NTC, and they're here. So it shows that there is a pathway. Football Margaret River itself, we don't have girls teams. We have a mixed, so they all playing mixed. And we ended up having to do, with the association, have a development squad of girls that played in the mixed leagues to try and encourage girls to play at that higher level. And that's going into its 5th year now, so we just think that's programs like that. You've got to do what Sarah and everyone else has touched on. You just got to do it now. You just got to strike. Take the chance, and if it doesn't work, then it might not work. But yeah, you just got to try and implement these things and make sure they work. But yeah, running carnivals like that in the southwest really gives the girls exposure to bigger things. So it's really good.
Thanks for sharing that, Andy, and good to have you here from Football Margaret River. I think that wraps up the questions and what has been a fantastic panel. This is Female Football Week, but really every week is Female Football Week. We got the Women's World Cup here in Perth in 2023. Really exciting times with you at the forefront. Yourselves in the audience, thank you for joining us. And those tuning in, please put your hands together for Michaela, Sarah, Sony, and Becky. And from us here at Floreat Athena, keep smiling, keep scoring.